Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed the lunch and networking. Let's begin our next exciting session. Technology choices are getting harder. Today, brokers and banks have more options than ever, but they still need to decide what to buy, what to build, and what to keep in-house. This session will explore how firms make those decisions, what works in practice, and where the biggest trade-off sits. Please welcome our moderator, A.B. Samuel from FYNXT, and our panelists. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Abby. Firstly, thank you very much for joining on a Thursday afternoon after lunch. I'm really excited for this panel discussion. Having served in this industry for almost 10 years, I think this is the topic that is the closest to my heart because I'm on the buy side compared to a couple of my colleagues here who are on the build side. It'll be a very interesting conversation. But genuinely, I think to understand buy, build, or both on trading tech for brokers, banks, and beyond, I'm really excited to host the panel. And with me, I have a few esteemed guests, and I'll let each one of them introduce themselves. Michael.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael from Aquarius. We are a Singapore company doing white label broker platforms. So we allow brokers to launch their own branded applications on the App Store.
Rick Williams from Maybank Securities. Mostly, I'm a director of the leveraged products team, so liquidity across all OTC derivatives and anything with gearing.
Cheers, Rick. Hello, everyone. Reese Bryan from Lucera. So I work on the sales team based in London, but also covering Asia. Lucera are a New York-based technology company, but we've got people all around the world covering infrastructure, trading technology, kind of like I would kind of position it as a bridge for institutional.
Hi everyone, I'm Roy. I'm product director at XC. We are a CFD FX primarily broker. And I work in product, so we built most of our things. So this will be an interesting conversation, yeah.
Okay, by the way, I'm Abby. I'm the founder and CEO of FinNext. The two brokers sitting here are also been my customers, so it's a very interesting conversation for us to really engage. Not as I think people look at build and buy, build versus buy as a controversial topic. I feel it's more a knowledge topic where we should have the knowledge, hopefully after the session, of what really can be built, should be built, what should be bought, or could be bought as well, right? Without further ado, let me jump into the first question. What are the 3 tech capabilities every broker or bank must have to remain competitive in 2026? And what are now commodities versus real differentiators? I'll start with the brokers or the customers first. Maybe Rick, you want to take it first? Or Roy, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bit more than 3. But I'll kind of say, which one is the commodity and which one I think is not. So, I think that the execution is definitely one thing you need to have, right? But I think that's a commodity. Risk management is also something that you definitely need to have. That is pretty much a commodity as well. Of course, your strategy, your logic behind is not the commodity, but the tech itself, I think is. Right? You have your customer onboarding, your KYC, your payment rails for us as a retail broker, that's very important. But actually, I also think those are commodities. And the only thing where you are really differentiating right now is between the user, the trader, and the trade. I think that's the only part where is the differentiator going forward. Yeah.
Lovely. Rick, any views on that?
So we're slightly different in the fact that obviously Axie is more retail focused, but I think you nailed it, like a front end, a user-friendly front end. I think one of your biggest commodities, your biggest assets is the technology that sits in the middle that gets you to the market. So for us, probably our most key is usually the order management system. It needs to be low latency, it needs to be multi-asset, there's a number of facets to it that you need. The front end, as I mentioned, and then I think the client experience is everything else. So that whether it's client portal, onboarding, etc., that whole that user interface that the client has, I think, is your third key feature you need.
Lovely. Riz, any views on that from your side?
Yeah, I think I'd probably look at it more broadly. So I would say like reliability, scalability, and ownership of IP or having a USP. I think reliability and scalability are very much something that you should look to your vendor for. But like I would be building my own IP and retaining that if I was on the broker side.
Lovely. Michael?
I pretty much agree with them. Just want to add one more that I think is a must-have. It's basically a data architecture. So data is very important thing in our world these days. What kind of data you have, how you analyze data, how you help your clients or go after clients with this data. It's something that you really need to have consolidated in one place.
Lovely. No, I completely agree. I think having served almost over 100, 200 brokers over the last 10 years with different phases of growth, whether it is startup, whether it is really big brokers, listed companies, I think the needs vary, I would say, depending on where you are, what you try to buy, what you try to build also. Customer experience, I feel, is very, very key to most of the brokers, is what we've experienced as well, where everyone, they don't want to look like their neighbor. They want to obviously have a much better brand presence, much better client experience, whether it is onboarding, client portal, etc. So yeah, thanks. I think it completely makes sense. I think there cannot be a tech discussion without discussing about AI anymore. So especially with AI coding tools, low-code platforms, and global engineering talent more accessible than ever, why aren't the firms building their own full-stack infrastructure today? And maybe Roy, a lot of the questions will be starting and pointed to you, given that you're one of the retail brokers. But yeah, I would love to understand your perspective and also some of the providers later.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at last 6 months where agentic coding basically became really, really good, I think the way I think about it is it has fundamentally changed the cost curve of building and maintaining code, right? So previously, our previous paradigm is like, okay, if you were to build it, you need to have a team around it, you need to manage it, and that comes with a cost, right? And as opposed to buying and then outsourcing that management of people. So I think with that cost curve changing, I think it becomes even a lower barrier of people, being able to build themselves. But that's my take on where agentic coding is going, right? With the next model, I think it will get better. With the following model, I think it will get even better, right? So the way I think about it is, if I'm wrong, then the problem can be solved by hiring engineers, for example. But if I'm right, then if you choose to buy something now that should be your differentiator, then you are locked in, right? At that point, you can't hire a way out of that. Yeah, that's my view.
Okay. Reese or Michael, from your perspective, how are you guys, from a technology perspective, adopting AI, and what do you think from your vantage is brokers, it's going to be difficult, or why brokers should still continue to work with vendors like us?
So I think on a company-wide basis, AI has allowed everyone to be more efficient. So I use ChatGPT, it helps out, but it's not perfect, right? It makes mistakes. I think 9 out of 10 lines of code now are written by AI. But again, it seems to be very good at like the deterministic tasks. But anytime there's edge cases or nuance, it struggles with. So I think we would be careful before being like, yeah, let's just let AI do everything, because I don't think we're there yet.
Rick or Michael first?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Riz. We do use AI in our coding, in our engineering teams as well. But it's to assist us to get things done faster. It's not a true trustless kind of usage of AI where we just let it run by itself. Maybe one day it will be there, but it's not there today.
Yeah. Rick, from a big organization like a bank, how, of course, with all the challenges, how are you all adopting AI, and what's your view on this?
Yeah, I think like Reece said, I think with what we do, AI sort of can't take over, but it can certainly improve how you operate. And I think, big bank, right, reducing costs is a big one. I think from a coding perspective, it'd be great. From risk management through to data analytics and stuff like that, I think you let in less manpower, you can process the data faster and probably more efficiently. But at the end of the day, like it won't. It'll be part of it, but I don't think with what we do it'll necessarily take over. I think it's hard to adopt as well. I think if you don't interact with AI properly, you don't get the most out of it. I think that's where everyone's struggling a bit.
Yeah, I think spot on. I was about to just say similar lines that we should focus on our strengths and manage our weaknesses. I think as brokers, the strengths, if your strength in terms of the resources or talent that you have capabilities inside to manage, because like Roy mentioned, I think you should definitely focus on that. But your focus is business, you should focus on the business side. For vendors like us, for example, I've given a very clear mandate to my team. 85% of the coding that has been done is done by AI now. But the reality is, we're still not at a place where I can get agent to run everything in my company. That is going to take some time. That means that even brokers who are going to use similar platforms like us will take some time to adopt. And some might not adopt. Some might just continue to use the capabilities of AI to expand or extend their capabilities, both in terms of business and tech perspective, from a business and tech perspective. Okay, third questions. Any questions, meantime, please do raise. I don't want to make it a very single directional monologue, but would love to ask. Please keep your questions prepared so we can ask, and you can ask later as well, yeah? Next question. Everyone talks about plug and play, but how difficult are integrations really across trading platforms, PSPs, CRMs, compliance systems, liquidity, and reporting stacks? Reese, you would like to take it first?
To be honest, so we're more on the institutional side. So I guess the equivalent for us would be dealing with a bank and having to talk to their pricing engine, their credit check, their middle office, their sales markup engine, and all of that stuff. But I mean, it's extremely difficult to kind of integrate to each of those modules, which are typically like really old proprietary check. So it's not like, it's like a bespoke API that you'd be coding to. What we see works best is when it's kind of more modularized. So if it's like you go to best in class for various things. So for us, it's like connectivity, we would be considered as like a best in class tool. But then you might go to a middle office provider for the middle office or a CRM provider for a CRM. That's typically what we see work best.
Michael, what about you, given that you integrate with so many trading platforms?
Yep.
What do you look?
So for me, I've been on both institutional and retail sites. The main thing I see is that API is basically systems talking to each other. So properly documented APIs, proper function calls for the APIs, that's what really matters in terms of integration, in terms of working together. So the problem comes when it's not done properly. You don't have proper documentation. You don't know what you're supposed to call. That's the main problem.
Yeah, Roy, I think one of the touch points is PSPs. I feel, at least for us, it has been really a pain, given that that is one of the core ways that brokers accept funds, and the maturity, like Michael mentioned, in terms of APIs and the way plug and play is claimed doesn't really work because of the maturity. What's your experience and view on that?
Yeah, I think actually it comes from a bit different of background, as in we basically had like a brownfield kind of code base, which kind of in our case makes sense to just integrate with the PSPs ourselves. If today we were to do it again, maybe we wouldn't do it that way, right? So I think it's just kind of when we started looking at it, we already had that brownfield kind of code base. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've really spent a lot of time, almost a decade, managing that incompetence, for lack of better word, at least for the brokers. Now we provide a canonicalized API, and all the overhead of the PSPs, we manage it our side, so it helps to at least reduce that one overhead. Okay, moving on to the next question. Buying gets you to market faster, but at what point does speed to launch become technical debt? I think this is a not controversial question, but given a vendor who's providing platforms, but it's very interesting to understand both, Rick, from your perspective, as well as Roy, and then I'll speak on the vendor.
I think this lands with the vendor at the end of the day. I am looking at you, yes. But I think, look, speed to market is definitely someone who's already built something that's already connected with everyone you want to connect with. We're talking about APIs and clients and liquidity providers. I don't think there's a time frame where you sort of get strangled out of the market. I think it comes down to everybody's sort of unique in a way, right? So you pick your technology based on what works best for your business plan, based on who you are and who you're facing and how you're going to do that. I think where you then get stuck and you switch out of, or where it stops you being profitable, is if the vendor then won't adapt to what you need, because everybody's got sort of unique little intricacies within their business as to, whether it's a new new client you need to face, or a new proprietary technology you need to then integrate with that vendor of yours. And if they won't do it, then I think that's when you need to start to shift, right? Yeah. That's when it costs you money. So that could be in the first week, it could be 2 years down the line. I think everyone's capacity is big enough, but I think the vendor's ability to move with you, and that comes down to manpower and cost. So it's a tough one.
Right?
Yeah. I totally agree on that point of how you move with your vendor. I think the way I think about it is, I think, related to the first question where, what are the commodities, what are the differentiators, right? I think in general, the commodities, you will commoditize kind of things you want to buy. And then the differentiators is where you really want to build yourself and control. Because what you'll find is, if your core differentiators are going to be built by a vendor, then 3 years down the road, you might start to diverge in terms of like roadmaps, what you want to provide your clients versus, or rather what your clients want versus your vendor's roadmap, right? I think that's where it make more sense to build those things. Yeah.
Reece?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. One thing I'd say from the vendor side is the sales cycles are so long, right? It takes so long to win a client. So I think being sticky and scaling and like having scalable relationships with your clients is key, because to spend all that time on a sales cycle and lose a client within a year or 2 years, it doesn't make sense for anyone. So how do we do that? Commercials have to be scalable, contracts have to be flexible. So all of our contracts are rolling monthly. Like our feel is never to like make a client feel like they're locked in. So what that leads to is then we have kind of weekly or monthly calls with clients where we're working with them constantly on what's next. How do you guys seeing your business improving? And obviously work with them to make sure that we're a part of that.
I think for us as a company, we are a little more intrinsically involved in this question, because a lot of the capabilities that we provide are very client-facing. And having, again, done this for the last 10 years, we realize that it becomes a contention if between build and buy, if the customer then finds it as a competitive disadvantage that his capabilities are becoming commercialized or commoditized by being shared across different brokers. So one of the things that we have pivoted now is to provide our brokers or customers the capability to build what they want, whether it is a client experience, whether it's a unique program, and that should remain unique to them so that it doesn't become commoditized. So that's one area where I feel, the debate for me between build and buy kind of ends, where brokers need a platform that allows them to build what is unique for them with a good foundation rather than building. For example, trading platform, a new broker coming up, there's just no point trying to build a trading platform by themselves. They might as well get to a platform which allows them to integrate to one or more trading platforms, right? So it should provide them a platform to build rather than just buy all of it either. That brings me to an interesting question. I think this is more, I would love to understand from your experiences in the industry, how do brokers view technology? In some cases, do they look at it as an asset from an IP perspective for valuations, or is it just more to enable their business? Roy, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's to, like I said, to differentiate, right? I think the part of the experience between the client and the trade, that's where you want to differentiate the experience. And it really depends on what kind of clients you're going for, right? Like even within retail, there's people that copy trade, there's people who API trade. So it's a broad spectrum. And at any point in time, you need to think, who are your real clients, who are the ones you want to go for, and build for that, right? So yeah, that's how I see it. Not really like IP or kind of thing. It's just more being able to have control, over the differentiating factors. Yeah.
Got it. What's your view on this, Rick, from Maybank's perspective or your experience?
So I think similar to Roy, right? So we don't build anything to add value in terms of, the sort of the the value around the IP, because they're never going to sell it, right? So everything that a bank does in our situation is, you pay for things to be more efficient and to make more money. So I think at the end of the day as well, you build a banking app or you build a trading app, someone's going to build something better or copy it anyway. So, you don't build it to then add value, you build it to add revenue. And if that means more customers or whatever it is, the end goal usually is a revenue figure rather than a value.
That's really good to get that perspective, because a lot of brokers that we have dealt with, I think I would say 10% of them have this, not notion or expectation that they want to own the IP because maybe they want to do a trade sale or something of that sort. But for bigger enterprises, I feel if your value is in getting customers in the top line, then you're not looking at doing trade sale. Michael, any view on your experience with this?
Not really. I think I agree with what you say, but it's really on what is their business, right? Are they trying to do a service, or are they trying to be a tech provider? Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Maybe a question to all of you all, right? What percentage of your engineering team is today focused on AI, and how are you all adopting AI internally?
Yeah, so we recently, I manage the product team, right? So product managers, quite a few of them, and like very recently we started. So we are all working out of like a IDE. We are putting our specs into code in the repository so that an AI agent can read it. But engineers are still there, right? Because we wouldn't know what's secure. We wouldn't know like if it's building the right code. But yeah, we are in the process actually of moving. And only really got good, in the last 6 months. So I don't think it's that late for anyone here to, take that journey. I think for someone that doesn't code day to day, I think the hurdle is just, that interface of looking at code is nothing but a text editor, right? So if you get past that, I think you'll start to see the beauty of this agentic coding. Yeah.
Lovely. Reese, from your side, how is your teams using AI internally, both for engineering and otherwise?
I use it a hell of a lot for most tasks, to be honest. I think the engineering team use it hugely to write code. I'd say everyone in their individual kind of component tasks use a form of AI, but I think, again, that's like we're leading the horse, we're not letting the horse lead us.
Rick?
Yeah. Maybank's a little bit slower in that front. I think, like Reece said, I look around the office, everyone's using it. I'm not heavily involved with the teams that build a lot of our stuff. A lot of technology I use is actually rented rather than built. But I can see it starting to creep in a fair bit. I've seen Maybank doing a lot of meetings with a lot of AI companies to see how to use it. So it's there, but how a big bank like that fully integrates it, that's a much longer process, I think, than everybody else.
Michael?
So for us, we are much smaller than Maybank, so much more flexible. Definitely, our engineers are already using it. One thing I've seen is that from this emergence of AI coding, we can really tell the difference between senior engineers and junior engineers, and what comes out from that. So senior engineers who have experience, who know what to tell the AI, what to prompt the AI, come up with much better results than someone who just gives a prompt and doesn't know what emerges from there. Yeah.
I think for us, I have to say that AI has been a journey, because we have a lot of, let me say, tech debt or legacy code that is there. So when you try to use AI on something really big, it becomes a massive overhead to manage that, especially from a governance perspective, because you feel on the surface that everything's been fixed very well, but you don't have the confidence to know what exactly did it go and fix. So we in fact, for anything new, I think it's very easy, agentic AI, both from a coding perspective. But for legacy, we are careful. But the most important part that we are still trying to be honest, figure out is the governance aspect of it, because as happy as we get when it becomes coded fast, that nervous also is who will take the responsibility of what's coded. To have the right guardrails and governance is where I think we are still learning, and I'm sure that the industry is still learning as well, given that we are not just another e-commerce provider, or we are serving regulated entities, banks in some cases, where somebody has to take the ownership and liability after a while. So it's very important to know what exactly is being done, how it has been done, and what is going to be in production as well. So yeah, I think AI is something that we'll continue to learn. I'm sure that next year we'll have a lot more stronger stories. I'm sure if Roy is in the panel, he'll have a lot more stories of how agentic AI and coding has really helped them. And so will hopefully we be able to share as well. Couple of more questions. We have around 10, 15 minutes left, so I have just one or two questions more, then I'll open it up for the floor. I know it's after lunch. I'll try not to make it boring as much as possible. So where do you feel, and this is maybe for the brokers mostly, where do you feel that firms feel most trapped with the vendors today? Is it data ownership or roadmap dependency, customization limitations, or migration complexities? Roy, this might be for you.
Yeah, I think two, right? So data ownership, while most vendors would say you can get your data into somewhere and then you try and marry that together. That journey is never easy, right? As opposed to having the data yourself, putting in something like Databricks and then running your data science kind of stuff, which I don't understand, right? And I think the other area would be your what was the other one? I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Roadmap dependencies, customization, or migration.
Yeah, I think to that same point is like, if your differentiators are basically bought, right, then the moment the vendor has it on the platform, all your competitors have it as well, right? So it's just a matter of time, weeks, maybe months at most, where everyone has the same thing. So yeah, I think the building makes a lot of sense actually on the differentiating factors that you want to have.
Michael, given that you customize your platform for a lot of people, what's your experience with brokers' expectation as far as your product is concerned?
Maybe just to share some experiences of what I've seen in some of my clients is that there are vendors that actually get too big and too powerful in a way that when the broker tries to onboard new clients, get a new fixed client, it takes 6 months to a year because of the vendor. I think they really feel caught at that stage. Yeah, I've seen such scenarios before.
Yeah, I mean, same for us. I think providing the customers the confidence that their data is secure, especially for a vendor like us, where we are providing their CRM systems and IB management platforms, etc. So we've always focused to have compliance like an ISO certification. Now that we are launching a SaaS platform, a SOC 2 certification, to give them the confidence from a compliance perspective. Of course, now I feel as far as customization is concerned or migration capability is concerned, AI will make a big differentiator, because as long as the customers have the access to do those changes in a way that they can retain their IP within their within an instance, that is what the differentiator will be for us as well. This will be the last questions, given we are very running close to the time. And individually, I would like to know your view. 3 years from now, what parts of trading infrastructure will become fully commoditized, and where will firms still win through proprietary technology?
Sorry, again?
3 years from now, what parts of trading infrastructure you think will be commoditized? Obviously, with AI coming in, and obviously maybe your experience and where your roadmaps is heading to, and where will firms you think still will need some proprietary technologies?
I think, well, it might be possible that even the part that I say is a differentiator, which is between the client and trade, that also get commoditized. Everyone has the same, offering, and just different UX, different UI. Then, at that point, I think it's about data ownership, right? Because, what you can offer your client, very specific, personalized things, especially, nowadays you can just call a cloud API, give you some things, right? But you need to have the data yourself first, right? So, so the data is actually the moat. I don't think the model itself, whether it's cloud, whether it's ChatGPT, those will also be the commodity. Yeah. yeah, I think it's in data ownership.
Do you think a trading platform like a MetaQuotes 3 years later will also have a significant role in the industry? Or will most brokers have their own trading platforms?
I think they are here, right?
No, I mean, it's not in a bad way, right? I think the industry has so many options. Do you think creating trading platforms with agents will become as easy as people anticipate? That's what I meant.
I think it has been and always will be actually driven by the user, right? As in, if the traders are not using MT45 or don't want to be installing like an app, do it on their phone. I know. Of course, with MT5 you can like reskin it. You can put it on the web. You can put it in your own mobile platform, your mobile app. But still, yeah, like basically where the users want to be, what they want. We have TradingView here. And if the traders are more interested in TradingView, then that's where brokers will play, right?
Reese, your view on what's next in 3 years?
Yeah, so I'd probably again come at it from a more institutional angle. So I think today connectivity, hosting, low latency infrastructure, that stuff is already pretty much commoditized, I would say. In the future, I think you'll see more, if it's not already happening, like machine learning kind of involvement in auto pricing, auto hedging models of the banks and brokers. But I don't think that will ever be commoditized because it's such a kind of crucial element of what they do. But I think you can see a world where you have like automated AI liquidity management, where if you have one tag that has bad markouts at certain times, and it immediately like changes are made in real time by like an AI agent. I think something like that could definitely happen.
Lovely. Rick, your view?
Yeah, I think everyone sort of nailed it, right? So I think a lot of it's already been commoditized, and I think those guys and it's the main technology advisor. Roy said you got to go where the clients are. So, I think all the big banks, everyone builds their own technology. But at the end of the day, you end up going to the same venues, right? So even if I build my own technology, most of my clients are in Lucera or 10 or wherever it might be, and you build your own front end platform, which is I think is the way forward at the moment. Everyone's trying to go more multi-asset, but then there's so many clients in Meta 4, Meta 5, so you can't not connect to it. So in the next few years, I think the proprietary side is just sort of trying to make a point of difference for yourself. But I think at the end of the day, I'm not sure how you can commoditize that, right? So I think most of the big tech players are there, and they're sort of getting bigger and bigger, and path of least resistance is to go to where the business is, right? Rather than force people to come to you.
Yep, lovely. Michael, your view?
3 years is a long time. With things moving faster and faster these days, it's really hard to say. We look at the OTC commodities world. What was once like very hidden data on transactions, on what's going on in oil trading, in gold trading, it's being sold. The data is being sold as commodity. Maybe what's happening here today with the retail brokers, with the insti brokers, that client data. The trades, maybe anonymized data, could be sold as commodities as well.
I feel in 3 years, AI is going to exponentially grow. The way we interact with, or customers interact with brokers, the way we expect interact with technology. I think listening to Darius from Anthropic. He says that creating software will be as easy as sending a text message. If that is the reality and the vision that they have, I think 3 years is quite a long time. The way we interact with the brokers, whether it is through mobile apps, it might become through, you would like to interact with them directly with the agents that you have on your platform, rather than having normal mobile apps created. But there will definitely be technologies from a regulatory perspective, compliance perspective, which I feel in the financial industry, I don't think there'll be a dramatic transformation. Those will still remain commoditized. They'll still remain regulated to ensure the sanctity of the industry is maintained as well, right? That actually brings to, this was the last question. I would love to open it up to the audience to ask any questions you might have. Yes, please. I can hear you, but yeah.
I don't know if they do. So being famously not a technologist, this might be out of place, but on LinkedIn there's circulated this meme that someone says, I found a great solution not wasting tokens on simple tasks, I just hired someone. So my question is, if you start to think in terms of tokens, in terms of costs, when you look ahead, do you think of token spending? Will you be charging brokers per token instead of per volumes? Is it anywhere in the thinking as tech experts?
I think, yeah, so it factors into the cost of build. So instead of like engineer's salary, now you're gonna, basically spend on the tokens. I think there's definitely a very big, education type of wave or exercise that you need to do to make sure that people don't waste tokens. I'll give you an example, a very interesting one. So we ran an AI workshop last week with all our business stakeholders. And I have this specific stakeholder that came, he built an entire app just to show me, I think it would be so good if, your clients can put a take profit and stop loss by the percentage of their, like the holdings, right, the equity. And I'm like, you could have just, just pinged me, told me that you didn't have to waste all the tokens to build an app to show me that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. But I think engineers will definitely get it. First to, should be the first to really benefit, pick it up, and exponentially grow that productivity. And PMs has to follow, build things, put specs, requirements in the way that AI agents can consume. So that everything it's using the least amount of tokens possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll add on to that. I agree on the engineering side. It is, to be honest, a little bit of learning curve that everyone's having, including us. We have around 120 engineers today, and everyone has a different level of maturity of how they use it, how they enable it, and sometimes they'll end up wasting a lot of money, for lack of a better word. So we keep them accountable now. But I think as far as the customer is concerned, I feel it is imperative that over time, a lot of the charging models will have tokens component to it. For example, if you look at Salesforce, I think they've started to change their model of charging in the by agents or by tokens as well. The customer is expecting an LLM interface. If you don't charge them based on the tokens, then the vendor is going to bleed to death very soon. Right? So there will definitely be a mix and match of both, I would say. When the customers are expecting more of AI, they would have to pay for it over time, because right now it's more people are looking at it as a great, cool feature to have, but at scale it will require to be rightly monetized as well. That's correct. Thank you. Any other questions? I know it's after lunch, but any questions? A surprise gift. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I cannot give that, but anyways, thank you very much for your time, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.